What if the real price of treasure was your own soul? Petrified, lost, unredeemed. Beneath the lonely mountain, something ancient sleeps atop a bed of gold. Every coin, every jewel, every broken sword, a grave marker in the dark. But the true horror isn't the dragon curled upon his hoard. It's what happens to everyone who longs for it. Smaug the mighty, Smaug the impenetrable, Smaug the unassailable. These aren't just names, they're warnings carved in ash and bone. When Tolkien's contemporaries asked him about his dragon, he answered with chilling precision. The dragon bears as name, a pseudonym, the past tense of the verb to squeeze through. Even his name is a trap. Smaug, from Old English meaning to squeeze through a hole. Because that's what greed does. It starts small, slips through the tiniest crack in your heart, and then it devours you whole. But here's the truth that chills the bone. Smaug isn't the real monster in this story. He's just the first victim. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit, but not everything that crawls out of darkness is seeking adventure. Sometimes, what emerges is hunger itself. A hunger that, if left unchecked, will consume all you love, and in the end, own your very soul. This is Monsters as Mirror, our 7-part journey into Tolkien's darkest creations, where each terror becomes a reflection of ourselves. Last episode, we braved the hunger of Shelob and Ungoliant. Tonight, we descend to the lonely mountain, where even the mightiest can be devoured from within. It was in a cold Oxford lecture hall that Tolkien dropped a spark into the world of myth. He declared, "Monsters aren't background, they're the blazing core of every story worth telling." In his legendary 1936 lecture, Beowulf, The Monsters and the Critics, Tolkien insisted, "The dragon is not a distraction from the story, it is the story." For centuries, scholars dismissed monsters as childish leftovers, just obstacles to the real plot. But Tolkien saw deeper. In myth, he argued, monsters are the truths we're most afraid to face. Hunger, greed, loss, death. Smaug isn't just a dragon in Middle-earth. He's Tolkien's answer to an entire tradition of shallow monster writing. Tonight, we follow that idea from Beowulf's dragon to Smaug, from the ashes of one horde to the shadow at the heart of another. Before the shadow, there was light. Before the curse, there was joy. Before Smaug, there was a kingdom so beautiful, even the elves spoke of it with wonder. Thorin Oakenshield carries this memory like a scar. Long ago, in my grandfather Thror's time, our family was driven out of the far north and came back with all their wealth and their tools to this mountain on the map. So my grandfather's halls became full of armor and jewels and carvings and cups, and the toy market of Dale was the wonder of the north. Picture it, the kingdom under the mountain at its peak. Dwarven hammers ringing against anvils. The Arkenstone burns like a trapped star in the throne room. Children race through Dale, laughter echoing off stone. The river runs clean, carrying songs and goods between mountain and town. This wasn't just wealth. It was civilization at its height. The dwarves turned stone into symphony, metal into memory. Their halls held light that shone out into the dark. But Thror began to change. Gold whispered to him. Late at night, he would walk his treasure halls alone, counting, always counting. Servants noticed the gleam in his eyes. Where gold gathers, shadow follows. And in the north, something ancient stirred. Something heard the whisper of gold. The withered heath, a wasteland where dragons bred among ancient bones. Here, Smaug learned to hunger, not just for food, but for gold, for the sound of terror in mortal voices. When his shadow first fell across Erebor, the dwarves thought it was a cloud. They were wrong. The attack came at dawn. Smaug descended like a red thunderbolt. Centuries of craft and culture vanished in hours. The toy market became a graveyard. Halls that had rung with laughter filled with smoke and screams. But the true horror wasn't the destruction. It was what came after. Smaug, settling in their halls, making their home his lair. The dragon didn't just steal their gold. He stole their dreams and slept on them. 60 years pass. Smaug sleeps, but his curse seeps out, poisoning the north. Tolkien called it dragon-sickness. Not a metaphor, a real curse. It spills from the treasure, infecting anyone who covets what the dragon guards. It starts as desire, swells into obsession, and ends in madness. For years, the mountain is silent, but for the shifting of coins, the whisper of old dreams. Listen to Smaug speak to Bilbo. My armor is like tenfold shields. My teeth are swords. My claws, spears. The shock of my tail is a thunderbolt. The beating of my wings, a whirlwind, and my breath fire. I am fire. I am death. Nothing can pierce me. Nothing. But notice what he leaves out. No talk of wisdom, cunning, or ancient lore. He boasts only of being untouchable, because that's the sickness. So afraid to lose what you have, you become nothing but armor around an empty heart. Smaug knows his hoard with terrifying precision. I know the count and value of my treasure, and I know the taste of every piece. I know every coin, every cup, every jewel. I know precisely what was taken. One cup, one simple cup, and the loss strikes him like a wound. The dragon who claims to be impenetrable is undone by the theft of a single golden vessel. But the curse doesn't die with the dragon. Roek the Raven puts it plainly to Bard. The treasure is likely to be your death, though the dragon is no more. This curse outlives its host. It drove Thror to madness. It will twist Thorin against his friends. It whispers to Bard, promising power if he claims what's his. It even tugs at Bilbo, making him clutch his precious ring a little tighter. Tolkien knew his mythologies. In the old stories, dragons are symptoms. The Norse sagas speak of gold sickness. Beowulf tells of a dragon whose curse lingers after its death. But Tolkien did something radical. He made the sickness more terrifying than the dragon itself. Because killing the monster is never the end, the real disease waits, hungry, for its next victim. It's easy to pity those who fall to dragon sickness, but can any of us say we've never felt its pull? That restless craving for what lies just out of reach. And for some, that craving becomes a prison, one from which even the greatest cannot escape. What is it to be cursed with endless wanting? Picture the dragon, alone in the darkness. He cannot eat gold. He cannot drink jewels. He is the richest creature in Middle-earth, yet the emptiest. Sometimes, the halls are silent except for the distant echo of his breath. Sometimes he simply waits, surrounded by wealth, untouched, unmoved. Tolkien understood this paradox. In his letters, he wrote, "Dragons steal gold and jewels, from men and elves and dwarves, wherever they can find them, and they guard their plunder as long as they live, which is practically forever, unless they are killed, and never enjoy a brass ring of it." Enjoy. A simple word, but it's everything Smaug has lost. He can guard his hoard, count it, possess it, but never truly have it. The gold owns him more than he owns the gold. This is why his conversation with Bilbo is so revealing. The dragon doesn't just want to kill the burglar. He wants to understand him. Why risk death for treasure? What could possibly drive someone to step into the darkness knowing what waits inside? "You have nice manners for a thief and a liar," Smaug says, almost wistfully. In Bilbo, Smaug glimpses what he's lost, the capacity to desire something beyond gold. Decades without company, until at last, a voice breaks the silence. Smaug doesn't unleash fire. Instead, he talks, boasts, threatens, riddles, because even the conversation of a burglar is a kind of treasure. Yet for all his hunger and haunted pride, Smaug is not simply a beast to be pitied. He is a puzzle. And Bilbo, standing in the dark, is about to discover that sometimes the only way to survive a monster's lair is to outwit the monster's mind. For Bilbo, every word matters. For Smaug, every answer is a mirror. Tonight, the world's oldest game begins, where each riddle is a shield, and every answer could be your last. When Bilbo Baggins enters Smaug's lair, he doesn't carry Sting or Orcrist. He carries something far more dangerous: his wit. Tolkien turned the old dragon-slaying tale upside down. Here, the hero isn't a knight, but a burglar expert, armed with quick thinking and riddles. Smaug expects swords and shouting. What he gets is a polite, invisible hobbit, tiptoeing through treasure, heart-pounding, mind-racing. "You have nice manners for a thief and a liar," Smaug observes, genuinely puzzled. Dragons expect heroes who bellow challenges. Instead, Bilbo presents himself as a riddle, his words looping and clever. "I come from under the hill, and under the hills and over the hills my paths led. And through the air, I am he that walks unseen." It's the same style that outwitted Gollum, but now the stakes are impossibly high. One wrong word and he's dragon food. But Smaug plays along, because this is fun. For the first time in decades, the dragon's mind is fully engaged. He banters, circles, teases, trying to catch the burglar in a slip. "I don't know your smell," Smaug says, frustrated. "I don't know your voice. I don't know your face. Who are you and where do you come from, may I ask?" This is the moment of maximum danger. The dragon who knows every coin can't solve the riddle of a single hobbit. Bilbo, feeling bold, gets a little carried away, dropping hints, riddling too close to the truth. "I am the lucky number. I am he that buries his friends alive and drowns them and draws them alive again from the water. I came from the end of bag, but no bag went over me." Now Smaug's playful curiosity turns to suspicion, then to rage. He begins to see through Bilbo's clues, realizing there's a company, a plan, a threat, revenge. The king under the mountain is dead, and where are his kin that dare seek revenge? Girion, Lord of Dale, is dead, and I have eaten his people like a wolf among sheep. And where are his sons that dare approach me? But in all this bluster, Smaug reveals his own fear, boasting of his armor, but hiding a secret. And in that moment of dragon rage, Bilbo's sharp hobbit eyes spot it. A bare patch on Smaug's chest, as bare as a snail out of its shell. The game is over. The dragon has been solved. Bilbo escapes, but his victory comes at a terrible price. One simple cup, stolen in the dark, and now something ancient and merciless is awake. Smaug's rage is no longer a private torment. It sweeps down the mountain like a burning wind, aimed straight at the innocent souls of Lake Town. "Barrel Rider!" the dragon roars, his voice shaking stone and sky. "Your friends are no friends of mine. I will kill them all." The flames of his wrath reflect not just greed, but the old, senseless terror that monsters bring, the kind that can destroy entire worlds for a single slight. But in this hour of doom, Tolkien's genius quietly unfolds. Salvation doesn't come from spells or prophecy, but from the small, the overlooked, the humble. A thrush, just a bird, listening in the shadows, carries Bilbo's words across the gulf between hope and despair. It finds Bard the bowman, last heir of Dale, not a king, not a hero, just a man holding on as his world burns. Bard receives the thrush's message as Smaug wheels above Lake Town, a red gold dragon flying fast in the last light of the sun. He has one arrow left, the black arrow, an heirloom of old vengeance, handed down through generations. And in this moment, alone, desperate, yet unbowed, Bard speaks not to his people, but to his weapon. Arrow, black arrow, I have saved you to the last. You have never failed me, and always I have recovered you. I had you from my father, and he from of old. If ever you came from the forges of the true king under the mountain, go now and speed well. One arrow, one dragon, one heartbeat on which the fate of the north balances. The black arrow flies, guided by the thrush's intelligence, by Bilbo's courage, by all the forgotten hopes of a shattered people. It finds the bare patch on Smaug's breast, pierces the dragon's heart, and sends him crashing, burning, screaming into the long lake. A tower of flame and steam, a silence more terrifying than any roar. Smaug is dead, but what dies with him and what new darkness is released will echo far beyond the lonely mountain. The dragon is dead. The smoke drifts away, but the wounds remain. Now, the real battle begins. Not with fire or claws, but with words, with suspicion, with longing and regret. The mountain's gold lies unguarded, but no heart is free from its shadow. Let's linger with the survivors, if only for a breath. They stand on the icy shore, not in triumph, but in loss, the flames of their burning homes reflected in their eyes. Every leader sees hope in the mountain, but also a chance to settle old wounds or claim what they believe is owed. Bilbo, standing in the ruins of Lake Town, believes the story is over. The dragon is dead, the goblins are scattered, and the treasure is waiting. What more is there to do? Everything. The answer is everything, because the curse now has no single host. It seeps into every soul who knows of the treasure. The men of the lake, homeless and desperate, march to the mountain for justice. The elves of Mirkwood arrive with old claims. The dwarves, led by Thorin, barricade themselves behind stone and pride. For Thorin, the treasure becomes a fortress, a wall between himself and a world he can no longer trust. For the men of the lake, it's justice for what they've lost. For the elves, it is memory, debt, and hope. But for Bilbo, it becomes something different, a test of conscience, a quiet invitation to mercy. And Thorin, noble, brave, tragic Thorin, falls deepest into the sickness. The king, who should have been celebrating, is now consumed by suspicion and dread. I will not parley with anyone, while an armed host lies before my doors. The treasure is mine, and mine alone. Even his kinsmen try to reach him. You are not making a very splendid figure as king under the mountain, Balin says, sadly. But Thorin cannot see past the gold's shadow. The treasure becomes a prison, and the king a captive. This is Tolkien's masterstroke. The battle of 5 armies is not about good or evil, but about wounds that greed leaves behind. All converge on the lonely mountain, not to defeat darkness, but to divide its spoils. The curse makes puppets of them all. In this storm, it is Bilbo, small, underestimated Bilbo, who sees most clearly. He takes the Arkenstone, the heart of the mountain, and offers it to Bard and the Elven King. It is a simple act of courage, an honest burglar's gamble for peace. I may be a burglar, but I hope I am an honest one. I will give you the Arkenstone, and you may do what you like with it. But I wish to be spared the battle. The Arkenstone scene is Tolkien's quiet answer to dragon-sickness. The only cure for greed is generosity, the only antidote to possession, the willingness to give up what you treasure most. Even so, the curse claims its final victim. Thorin, mortally wounded, finds clarity at the end. I wish to part in friendship from you, and I would take back my words and deeds at the gate, You did what you thought best, and you have shown mercy to my people. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. He dies, finally free, but the price is everything he loved. But even in loss, Tolkien's wisdom returns us to that old Oxford lecture, where monsters were not distractions, but the blazing heart of myth. The true cost of Smaug's curse is measured in broken trusts, in wounds that haunt generations, but also in the fragile, hard-won threads of alliance that begin to mend the world. And so, when the dust settles, what rises is not just ruin, but the first hope of healing. A reminder that facing monsters is not about slaying evil, but learning what must be protected and what must be let go. And so, on this knife edge of hope and loss, another shadow stirs, quiet at first, but growing in the darkness beyond the mountain. When Gandalf finally reveals his true purpose, the threads come together. The dragon and the mountain. That was only the beginning. You have not seen the last of me. I am going south, and I have not got time to spare for you or your treasure. I am going to the necromancer of Dol Guldur. The necromancer, Sauron, though his name is still spoken only in dread. The gold that drew a dragon, the greed that broke a king. These were only the opening moves in a far greater story. Smaug wasn't just a dragon. He was Sauron's unwitting ally. As long as he lived, the North remained divided, too wounded to stand together. But with the dragon's fall, and with Bilbo's courage, Bard's arrow, and Thorin's sacrifice, the free peoples of the North found unity and hope once more. When Sauron's armies finally marched, they faced not scattered victims, but a new alliance, dwarves, men, and elves standing side by side. The road from a quiet hobbit hole led to a dragon's lair, and from that darkness, all the way to the gates of Mordor. But even that isn't quite the end. Because the real treasure Bilbo found beneath the mountain was not gold or jewels, but a simple golden ring, picked up in a riddle game, won in the shadows, and carried unknowingly into legend. My precious, Gollum called it. And now it rests with a hobbit who does not yet know its burden. The dragon's curse is broken. But another older shadow now begins its slow, silent work. All the gold, all the greed, all the ruin, these were only the prologue. But in Middle-earth, as in every great story, light and hope are never lost for long. We face monsters not just to see what is dark, but to remember what we most wish to protect. And as long as there are those with the courage to choose mercy, to share rather than to hoard, there is always a chance, no matter how small, that goodness will rise again. Next time on Monsters as Mirror, we've crossed paths with the Balrog, the living shadow of buried rage. We've faced Ungoliant and Shelob, whose hunger could swallow even hope. But next, we meet the father of dragons himself, Glaurung, the master of lies and the monster who hoards not gold, but memory, regret, and the power to twist fate. Is Glaurung the father of every lie? Join us as we uncover the darkness at the root of all deception on the next Monsters as Mirror.